Only yesterday, as history measures time, our armies were fighting in the fields and in the streets of the nations we now occupy. In May, the Germans surrendered. VE Day was here. In August, the Japanese gave in. VJ Day was proclaimed to the world. That victory was bought at a terrible price, in lives, in blood and pain, in tears and sweat. After Versailles, we failed to make the peace terms stick. Hitler rearmed in defiance of the world. His labor troops became the army we just fought. Our job, your job, is to win the next war by making sure aggressors never march again. We have beaten the enemy again. We are occupying his lands as conquerors. But parading through the conquered cities is only the starting point for a long, hard, complicated, and dirty job. We destroyed a lot of Germany and Japan before they surrendered. But there is still much that must be destroyed in these countries before we can be sure that their war-making power is stopped for good. First, the remains of their armed forces must be broken up beyond the chance of rebuilding. Their armies caged and guarded while they do the work we want done until they can be processed and demobilized. That means war criminals must be found, tried, and punished. Their general staffs disbanded. Their military academies and training camps closed. Their arms gathered and destroyed. Second, their war industries must be dismantled. That means submarine yards, gun and munition factories, aircraft plants, and every other industry that might be used to rebuild their armed might. Third, all the propaganda that the Nazi and Japanese warlords used to whip up the mass hysteria that brought war must be rooted out and destroyed. We can't afford not to do a thorough job in destroying these things. And these jobs will take a lot of our men. For our security and safety as an army, we must organize and repair, control and guard, communications to carry on our work, roads and bridges to carry our supplies, public health measures to protect us from epidemics and disease. We must keep an eye on the population in general for signs of renewed resistance and search out potential troublemakers. We must guard the borders to make sure war criminals don't escape and hostile groups don't get a chance to organize or operate. We must run courts to try those who violate the occupation orders and jails to punish the offenders. And we must give protection and new life to the millions of Allied peoples whom the Nazis and Japs enslaved and tortured until they can be returned to their homes. These things we do for our own safety and protection and to serve the aims of our occupation. The job of rebuilding their lives and countries beyond this point is the responsibility of the German and Jap people. We intend to stay and see that they don't get off the track until we are sure that our third major objective is well set on the road to success: the re-education and reorientation of the German and Japanese people. But we do know the major foundations of peace and freedom from our own experience, and they are the measures we are trying to establish and promote. First, free speech and press. We are gradually introducing these. Second, freedom of worship. Third, fair trials based on just laws and courts that make no discrimination on grounds of race, color, creed, or position. Fourth, free schools with education based on the values of peace and truth and the integrity of the individual. Finally, free government based on fair elections and practice in running these governments under our supervision. Although our mission embraces two lands on opposite sides of the world, the problems are fundamentally the same. We are in the middle, not only geographically, but in dealing with the day-to-day problems of devastated lands. But that doesn't exhaust the jobs that men like you have to do. The occupation forces have to live. That means men, long supply lines, food, clothing, medical services, and so forth. We still have billions of dollars of stuff overseas left over from the war. Some of it will be used to supply your needs, but a lot of it must be maintained and guarded until it can be disposed of. What you pay in taxes as a civilian in the future will be determined by what can be saved and recovered of the costs of the war. Our success in this great endeavor is the sum of thousands of jobs. Some jobs may seem unimportant because they are difficult to dramatize. But each of us is doing a job, however small it may seem, which adds to the great role our country is playing in this troubled world. Twice in a generation, undersea as well as in the sky, what American inventive genius developed has been twisted into a deadly weapon against us. In both world wars, Germany's evil genius called the first strike against civilization with U-boats. American genius gave wings to the world, wings to bring nations and continents closer together. In World War II, Germany's evil genius twisted our conquest into a weapon of terror, calling a second strike on civilization. On the final lap, we managed to win a race against time, and American scientific genius produced a clincher, the atomic thunderbolt. This time, no evil genius is going to get a chance to dedicate our discovery to total destruction. That's why we're keeping such a close watch on the spawning grounds of trouble. It's the most important job in the world today. And it's your job, your mission overseas. Remember, we can't let anybody call a third strike on civilization, because the third strike is out.